What villain was terrifying? Because they were right. Magneto is my favorite villain of all time. Every time his motives are brought to light I get that yeah, I kinda get it moment. None of you said the most terrifying one. Jojo from the Powerpuff Girls. He wanted to bring free energy and advanced technology to the people. And in one episode he actually did. He made the world an amazing place. And then the Powerpuff Girls ruined it all. I just read his backstory, pretty sad. The professor accidentally created him by spilling chemical X on him. He was a lab assistant at the time, but then after the Powerpuff Girls were created, the professor eventually neglected Mojo and left him to live out on the streets. Stevie from Wizards of Waverly Place. Her entire goal was to stop families from giving up their magic to just one person in the family. Like we're really supposed to be rooting against her? It just seemed super out of character for Alex to go against that plan. Red Queen Resident Evil. I have locked down this facility to prevent a world-ending virus. Please could you good guys pay attention and not blow holes in the doors. Ken from the Bee Movie. I too would go absolutely berserk if a talking bee stole my girlfriend and gaslit me into thinking I was crazy. Point plus. Dude was allergic. OFC he wouldn't want to be around. Count Dooku just straight up told Obi-Wan that the Sith control the Senate. I still love the fact that Dooku tells him this, and Obi-Wan knew about the clone army being set up under the Jedi's noses and no one decided to investigate that possible connection until years into the Clone Wars. Arya's parents on Pretty Little Liars. They're villainized for not letting their high school daughter date her teacher? Yeah, that relationship was just like, why normalize that at all? I know why they attempted to normalize it. It was rhetorical and doesn't require an answer and was meant to display the disgust I have with the attempt. The bears from Goldilocks and the Tree Bears. She broke in, ate their food, broke some furniture, and slept in their beds. My 4Y.0 loves it when the bears eat her, at least in the one I tell him. He always says he thinks she is the bad person lol. The Hamburglar was just trying to save children from childhood obesity. Colonel Kurtz. We train young men to drop fire on people, but their commanders won't allow them to write fuck on their airplanes because it's obscene. I wasn't really terrified of it, but N was right in my opinion when we are talking Pokémon. Dude thought getting these creatures and making them fight till one is knocked out wasn't that amazing of an idea and it just made sense to kid me. That all said, I think N is a really interesting character that can be interpreted in many different ways. Of all the main leaders of these games, I think N had the best argument. It wasn't perfect though. I like N a lot for his character development. I agree with him at the end. Real Pokémon mistreatment should not be tolerated. But a Pokémon trainer simply using Pokémon in battles does not qualify as mistreatment as the Pokémon is happy. The Pokémon like the trainers. That is the best you should wish for there. All in all, I wish Pokémon had good stories and characters like this again tbh. The replicants from Blade Runner, used as slaves and given artificially short lives. They just wanted to live and be free. Point in the book they didn't have artificially short lives. The scientists just couldn't figure out how to make them live longer. Their digestive system would start breaking down. King Khan. Not even because he was right. He was just alive, minding his own business and blam, taken out of his home and made to be the villain without any choice. A real good example of human nature. Editor word. I never saw Khan as a villain. Maul. His last words before being captured by the Republic was, "You're all going to burn. You're all going to die. You don't know what you're doing." He tried to warn Ahsoka of Palpatine's ultimate plan, but she didn't listen. The mom in Mrs. Doubtfire. Something you don't understand as a kid watching it, but totally get as a parent. Shit, if I was married and came home to literal zoo animals in my house, I'd definition go find James Bond and a nanny instead. The boss MGS3. I raised you. I loved you. I've given you weapons, taught you techniques, endowed you with knowledge. There is nothing more for me to give you. All that's left for you to take is my life, by your own hand. One must die and one must live. No victory, no defeat. The survivor will carry on the fight. It is our destiny. The one who survives will inherit the title of boss, and the one who inherits the title of boss will face an existence of endless battle. Dr. Doofenshmirtz. Patrick Bateman. What was he right about? How utterly unimpressive he is. The memes about him demonstrates an irony. Patrick is just an empty shell pretending to be a man, obsessed with both fitting in and being better than everyone around him. Yet as he realizes by the end, with the implication he imagined most of what happened, or his father is covering for his insane ass, he comes to the realization he is never going to get what he wants: uniqueness. He's trapped in a world of people as bland and uninteresting as he is, and there's no escape. Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin from Spider-Man. In spite of everything you've done for them, eventually, they will hate you. Dude was right about how the perception of public figures changes over time. I chose my path, you chose the way of the hero. And though they found you amusing for a time, if there's one thing people love more than a hero, it's to see a hero fall, fail, die trying. Frankenstein's monster. Adam. Created by a short-sighted, arrogant doctor as the first of his race, then denied the opportunity to be part of a community of his own, man-made beings, or the human community. He only became monstrous after it became clear that Frankenstein would never create another of his kind, and was driven mad by his desire to punish Frankenstein's hubris. Where is Q from Star Trek? He introduced the Borg just to prove a point. Otto from Wall-E. It was one of the only almost perfectly executed AI villains. He never really talks, unless needed because he wasn't programmed to. No malicious motives, does everything efficiently. He's only bad because he's following his programming. Protect the humans, and don't let them back to Earth. Not out of malicious intent, but it was what he was programmed to do. And his directive isn't even incorrect. Wall-E finding that plant was like finding a 4-leaf clover in a field of grain. The planet was nowhere near habitable, and they barely know how to stand when they get back. In reality, you know, nobody on that axiom is going to make it very far. Lex Luthor. We are only safe as long as Superman think it's fun to be the hero. The Red Hood. Batman beats insane people up. They go to Arkham, are usually experimented on there, and come back worse. In a way that makes Batman one of the worst perpetuators of Gotham's constant decline into savagery. The Red Hood just straight up kills them. Not really sure if you can consider him a villain, but Peacemaker when he went on a rant about Batman causing countless deaths because he refuses to kill supervillains. Yeah, not a villain, but definitely an anti-hero. Not a true villain but Squidward. Damn, is SpongeBob an annoying neighbor? I'd hate him too. Squidward was right about adulthood, especially if you work low wage / on call, stressful jobs. Squidward's a minimum wage worker in a monotonous day job with a boss who explicitly wants him to earn as little as possible and cuts costs everywhere while having a musician's heart and playing his passion instrument to have some happiness and relaxing time for himself. He then proceeds to have his only time of peace and tranquility stolen from him by a loud, inconvenient neighbor who doesn't take care of his shit and makes fun of him for not being a pro at music. Most SpongeBob episodes I watch nowadays have me rooting for Squidward to just murder those two morons before they induce a depression breakdown on our Squid Boy. Ozymandias. He outsmarted the most powerful being in the universe and won. There actually weren't flaws in his logic or execution. There is no Easter Bunny, there is no Tooth Fairy, and there is no Queen of England. Titan. Megamind 2010. The Matrix is Agent Smith. I tried to classify your species. I realized that you're not actually mammals. Every mammal on this planet instinctively develops a natural equilibrium with their surrounding environment, but you humans do not. You move to another area, and you multiply, until every natural resource is consumed. The only way you can survive is to spread to another area. There is another organism on this planet that follows the same pattern. Do you know what it is? A virus. Human beings are a disease, a cancer of this planet. Poison Ivy is an environmentalist at heart and Raj Al Ghul is a humanitarian. Both were pushed into extremism after the broken system they are trying to fix simply refused to change for so long that they decided the system itself needed to be torn down. Ultron. browsed the internet for 30 seconds, and decided humanity had to go. He could have come straight to Reddit and saved himself 29.5 seconds. Magneto. He knew the hate humans had for mutants and wasn't as blindly optimistic as Xavier. True Malcolm X of the mutant rights movement. It doesn't help what happened to him as a child. That fueled his hatred for humanity. Evil Morty from Rick and Morty. He just wanted to get away and be free from Rick's constant abuse. Granted, he took innocent lives to achieve his goal and was wrong when he said back quote, "If there's one truth in the universe, it's that Ricks don't care about Mortys." See 137. Both doofus Ricks. Wasprick are all exceptions. He was right about it being a constant cycle of abuse because most Ricks do abuse their Mortys. He got sick of it. He just wanted an escape. Scar. He only wanted to be king because he was a second male lion in the pride, which means he is automatically not getting much food and also beaten into submission regularly if he wants to stay in the pride. Aside from that, he isn't allowed to mate at all. Only the king gets that. Can we really blame him? Also, he tried to eat Zazu and got in trouble. He says it's natural. Then Zazu says, "Let's make him into a rug." Then in freaking Hercules he was a rug. Roger the Shrink from Friends. He saw the group for what they were almost immediately, and when he called them out on it instead of saying it, "Now what?" He's right. We should work on ourselves and not spend the next decade bouncing from one failed relationship to the next. They badmouth him behind his back and throw cookies at him after he leaves the room. He was the hero they needed but didn't deserve. Captain Hook. The Captain Hook that has to deal with Peter Pan killing lost boys before they age out and become pirates, or every other sanitized version of the story. This in the original version, Peter Pan is a monster, kidnapping boys and taking them to Neverland, but only until they reach a certain age. Captain Hook seems more like Chris Hansen if he had a penchant for the pirate life. Chuck McGill. He was ultimately proven 100% correct in asserting that his brother being a lawyer would eventually ruin lives and hurt people. Granted, he was a total dick about expressing it, as well the way he went about undermining Jimmy, but he was right. Although I think it can be argued that Chuck pushed Jimmy to it. If he had given Jimmy 1 ounce of support, people live up or down to your expectations. Tell someone they are a piece of crap for long enough, and they might believe you. Well, technically not a villain, but Elliot from Mr. Robot. His views on society were spot on, besides the blatant nihilism. Alien from Alien. Just eating people in space. It's the cycle of life. Joker from The Dark Knight. Backquote, "Don't talk like one of them. You're not. Even if you'd like to be. To them, you're just a freak, like me. They need you now, but when they don't, they'll cast you out, like a leper. You see, their morals, their code, it's a bad joke. Dropped at the first sign of trouble. They're only as good as the world allows them to be. I'll show you. When the chips are down, these civilized people, they'll eat each other. See, I'm not a monster. I'm just ahead of the curve." Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. Society doesn't care about you, your mental health, how hard you are trying, what you have to go home to, and the rich have no concept of the poor. Tom from Tom and Jerry. Poor guy was just trying to be a good housecat and keep mice at bay. I wonder why we all rooted for Jerry as kids. Not terrifying, but Thanos had some good points. Also, Ultron had his heart in the right place, and he was terrifying in the What If episodes. Edit. I'll add Gore the God Butcher as well. Even though the new movie was boring, he was pretty scary and his motives were fair. He was just giving the gods what they have given others for centuries. My dad. Someone had to go out for cigarettes. Thanks so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed, please subscribe and hit the like button.